loyalty is overrated. And I've got a great example that starts with the death of my dad. I know, just bear with me. So back up a few months, actually a few years. So I've talked about before on previous episodes about my father. He passed away back in August of 2014. And I was cooking at the time. And right when I started going to culinary school, right when I got out of going to culinary school and started working at my first job, which was at the Dallas Country Club, a great place. We had all the toys, all the customers, really, really neat. Within like 2 weeks of me starting there, got a phone call from my parents saying my dad had cancer, and it was a couple of years later until he passed. But that whole time I was down in Dallas, slugging it out in the kitchen. My parents were up in Michigan, and I missed out on a lot of opportunities. Still saw them for holidays and birthdays and things like that, but it just wasn't the same. And with my dad being sick and me working and not being in a job where I could take time off, really, it made it really, really difficult. And my dad and my mom, they were great about it, but especially my dad, considering he was the one that was sick, was really understanding. It's like, look, this is your career, this is your life. Do not sacrifice it for me. Like, be here when you can, but I totally understand, and we'll help each other and be with each other from afar. And that was good to know, but I still kind of carried this guilt around with me, but I still I really couldn't do anything about it. I was making $9 an hour just starting out. What am I going to do? Ask for weeks off at a time so I could go be with my parents? So anyway, fast forward to I'm there, 2.5 years, and my dad was getting pretty sick, and I knew that I was going to probably only see him 1 or 2 more times before he passed, and this was in the summer of 2014. So I ended up stumbling on another job. I got another offer to be kind of like almost like a sous chef, but not really, which was a step up from where I was at and a step in pay and responsibility. I had really learned how to cook at the Dallas Country Club, and this next job was going to give me the opportunity to kind of learn more of the bookkeeping and the business side and ordering food and all of that kind of stuff and kind of leading people, which there just wasn't room for me to do at the country club, which is fine. So hemmed and hawed, talked to my wife, decided to take the job, and the way that it worked out when they wanted me to start, it allowed me a certain window of time to go up to Michigan and spend time with my parents and my dad, knowing that he probably wasn't going to be here for too much longer. But the only way I could do that was if I gave a 10-day notice instead of a 2-week notice. Now, 10 days, 14 days, whatever. And it really bothered me, and I kind of hemmed and hawed about it and talked with my wife, and she was like, look, this is a chance to see your dad. 10 days versus 14 days, you're essentially a line cook. Who cares? But it bothered me because I felt like I owed the employer something. And looking back on it now, like, holy shit, was I thinking that the wrong way. But anyway, I submitted my 10-day notice. I talked to the chef that I worked with directly for a long time and explained the situation. He was understanding. The executive chef was not. He was not very happy with me and was upset, and, loyalty, and how could you do this to us, and you're leaving us in a bad spot. And, I explained my career opportunity and dad dying. So those two things, leave me alone. But he wasn't very good about it. So anyway, I went up, got the chance to spend time with my dad. This was in July, and had a really good time. Was there for a week or so, came back, started my new job. A month later, my dad passed away. So with that, had I been stuck on this idea of loyalty or whatever, I really wouldn't have been able to make the trip work. Because that 4 days was 4 out of the 6 or 7 that I ended up going up to Michigan to spend time with them. So the moral of the story, and the reason I'm telling this story, was that, man, me finally kind of breaking free of my mental shackles of what I thought I owed the company that I worked for. Had I not done that, I would not have seen my dad one last time and spent good time with him. It would have been when they came to visit me and I was working on 2 of the holidays or whatever. So the story there is, thank goodness, thank God that I was able to kind of break free of my mental shackles and do that. But that really stuck with me, that the executive chef was not really understanding about that. And I had given, nights, weekends, holidays, like all cooks do, worked, multiple stretches of 14, 16 days straight without a day off, all that kind of stuff. And, not a pat on the back. That's the job. That's the life of being a line cook. But a million times he asked me directly, hey, can you stay late tonight? We need help. We have an event. Can you help? Can you go work this event? Can you go do that? My answer was almost always yes, because I didn't mind helping. I wanted the experience. I wanted to learn to get better, and I could work with some of the other chefs there and just learn and learn. So my answer was almost always yes. And in a situation like that, I was hoping for more understanding, but did not get it.